Okay, today we're making Serious Eats vegan ramen, and it starts out with an eggplant, a medium onion with skin on, cut in half, 2 heads of garlic, and a nice fat knob of ginger sliced about a 1/4 inch thick. And we're just gonna kind of toss these in just a little bit of oil, and we're gonna put them under the broiler and broil until everything is nicely charred. So put the rack on the top shelf. Okay, this looks pretty good. Our eggplant, you can tell just by squeezing it that it's cooked all the way through. The onions have a nice char on them, that's what you want. The ginger's charred. The garlic caught fire a couple times, so that's fine. Just kind of move it out of the way. And you can tell this one is oozing, this garlic is kind of oozing a liquid out of it now. So these look really nice. That's what we're looking for. If you're not sure about the eggplant, you could pierce it with a knife and it should be tender all the way through. This took about maybe 10 to 15 minutes under the broiler, which seems like a long time. It's going to generate a little bit of smoke, so make sure you have good ventilation in your kitchen, or take it outside and throw this stuff on the grill maybe. You know, get some really high heat browning on everything. Okay, we got our stock pot now. We're going to add our garlic, the ginger, our onions, the stems from the maitake and shiitake. I didn't have maitake, so I used a few extra shiitakes. I had about 8 ounces, not quite enough, but that's okay. I'm going to use extra dried. So here's our 1/2 ounce of dried shiitake and 1/2 ounce of dried porcini, and I added like another ounce of dried shiitake to make up for the ones I didn't have. We've got a 6-inch sheet of kombu here that goes in, and I don't have a leek, so I'm going to use extra scallions. I got 6 scallions plus a handful of older scallions. They're going to go in just like that, and 6 Napa cabbage leaves that I rinsed off. Now we're just going to cover this with 1 inch of water, bring it to a boil, and then reduce it to a simmer. All right, we got 1 sweet potato diced, about a 1/2 inch dice. We're going to add our mushrooms. These are the shiitakes. These are the caps that have been quartered. We've got a tablespoon of the togarashi, and you'll want to save a little bit extra of this for serving. A good pinch of salt, vegetable oil or peanut oil, just a little glug. We'll toss this together and roast this on a sheet tray for about 25 minutes or so. Okay, we're making our tare now. So I've got about half of the fresh caps that we didn't roast in here. And I'm going to add a piece of kombu, a 6-inch piece of kombu, your sliced ginger, about a 4-inch piece of sliced ginger, 6 cloves of unpeeled garlic, a 1/2 cup of mirin, and a 1/2 cup of soy sauce. I'm going to slice about 6 scallions here, just kind of rough chop. Get those in. Then we're going to cover this. We're going to bring it to a bare simmer and cook it until the liquid is reduced by about half and the mushrooms are tender and flavorful. Now we're going to make our mushroom scallion oil. So we've got about a 1/2 ounce of porcini and a 1/2 ounce of shiitake mushrooms here. 6 scallions again. We're going to just kind of rough chop those. Toss all those in. I got kind of the smallest little metal pan I could find, but you could do this in any other saucepan. It's kind of like a little measuring cup thing. And then I've got vegetable oil here. We're going to do a 1/2 cup. And we're going to cook this over sort of medium heat until you start to see bubbles come out of the scallions. And then we'll kind of push everything down and let this sit and infuse. Our sweet potatoes and shiitakes are out of the oven. They look good. They're done. So I'm just going to kind of scoop them into a pile, and I'll get them transferred to a plate. This will be a garnish for our ramen. So they look and taste great. Okay, our oil is looking really good. That's what you want to see with the bubbles. So we're just going to take that off and let that just sort of infuse on its own. I did add more oil to this to kind of almost cover everything, so my yield might be a little bit bigger, but I just wanted to make sure that we extracted everything. Our tare is simmering away and it smells amazing with the ginger in there. It's beautiful. You want to keep it just on a real low simmer, keep it covered like that. Okay, our broth is looking really nice. It's been going now for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. We go ahead and turn that off and we're going to strain that out. Okay, it's time to strain our ramen broth. Looks great, super clear. We've got a colander set up over a bowl. Hopefully it's big enough to handle all of it. Okay, so now we're going to do the part that makes the broth creamy. We've got roasted garlic here that I squeezed out of the skins. Half cup of our roasted potatoes. And 1 cup of broth. And I'm going to blend this until it's smooth. You can do this in a regular blender if you like. And there we have it. We'll just add this to our broth. That's 2 quarts of reserved broth. That looks good. It's going to make it nice and creamy. And then we'll warm up the broth for service. Okay. Our tare is looking really nice. It's starting to get just a little bit syrupy. I'm going to turn up the heat just a little bit and we'll reduce this down just a little bit more. Okay, we're going to strain the tare into a bowl. You could use a squeeze bottle for this if you have one. Or you can put it in a jar. It doesn't have to be a blue jar, but that's what I had. Alright, so this is our eggplant that I scooped the flesh out of the skin. Here's the skin. And I scooped the flesh out and put it in the salad spinner. And we'll put the lid on. Give it a quick spin. And any juice that's left over, if there's any big pieces that made it through, you could pull them out, but we'll add that to our stock. I'm going to toast a couple sesame seeds here. I got a pan that I kind of heated a little bit over high heat. I'm going to lower it down. And we just need about a tablespoon or so. You could do this in a toaster oven. I generally just do this in a pan. I like to just keep them moving until I can see if they're all the way toasted. Once they start to turn brown, it'll happen really fast. That's looking pretty close. Those are toasted just how I like them. I'm going to dump them out onto a plate. There you have it. We're going to dump in the toasted sesame seeds. 1 tablespoon of our tare. And just give it a nice stir. And we're going to strain our mushroom and scallion oil. And I'm going to throw this into a jar, but you could also put this into a squeeze bottle. Probably in the restaurant, you're going to want to put all these in squeeze bottles. For home use, I don't have a lot of squeeze bottles around, so I'm just going to put them in a jar. Alright, now we're stirring together a 1/4 cup miso paste, our 3 tablespoons of tahini, and we've got a couple cloves of garlic that have been minced into a paste. That's the same garlic from the broth that we reserved. And then 3 ounces of our tare. This is going to be a very salty component to our ramen, so we don't want to salt the broth until we taste it when it's mixed with this. Otherwise it could get a little salty. There we go. Should look like that. Alright, we're going to talk about slicing scallions for garnish. We're going to do a very thin sliced scallion. You want a sharp knife for this. If you use a dull knife, you're going to bruise the scallions and they're going to turn brown, which is not good. So I like to start by taking one of the green parts And you can kind of flatten this out a little bit. And we're going to cut these on an extreme bias, very, very thinly. It should be about that thin when you do them right. So again, you flatten this out, cut them on an extreme bias. Okay, once we got those cut, I got a bowl of cold water here. And we're going to put them in the bowl of cold water and just let them soak for just a few seconds. They don't need to soak very long. And then I like to pull them out and put them on a paper towel or a kitchen towel. That's what they should look like when you're done. Alright, our water is boiling a little bit. I'm going to turn it down and we're going to drop 4 ounces of our ramen noodles in the water. I've got a strainer in here, but you could strain these later if you wanted to. We're going to cook these for 90 seconds. In the meantime, we're going to put about 2 tablespoons of the miso mixture in our bowl. Then we're going to add about 1.5 cups of our broth. There's 8 ounces. There's 4. So that's just off a simmer. You don't want it to be too hot. And we'll just dissolve that miso. And I'm going to add just a little bit of the tare. I like mine a little saltier, so I'm going to add just a little bit more tare for salt. And we wait for our noodles. We got 30 seconds left on the noodles. Okay, the noodles are almost done. I'm going to let them go just a few more seconds. It might take closer to 2 minutes, it looks like, which is fine. The package said 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. Okay, we're going to take them out, give them a shake, get the water off of them, pour them right in our bowl. They look great. Mine were done in about 2 minutes, and they were thawed when they went in. I'm going to kind of center them in the bowl. We're going to put a little bit of the eggplant filling in here. We'll do a nice little scoop of that. And we're going to go in with our roasted sweet potato and shiitake. Kind of make that look nice, like that. Then we're going to go in with some togarashi, just a little bit more if you like yours spicy. This is optional. And I'm going to do a little bit of the mushroom scallion oil on top. Alright, I'll just garnish with a little bit of scallions, and that's our bowl of ramen. Done.